My name is Evelyn Ayoví and I'm going to explain why English. Currently, English is an increasingly practical and standardized communication tool. The German linguistic Karl Grimm defined English as a successful language destined to reign the world. However, knowing how to speak English is not enough to take advantage of the opportunity that this language offers. It is important that the speakers understand the culture intrinsically linked to the language. Importance of knowing and understanding English culture. Number one, English is a reflection of culture. For example, with the use of slangs. These words promote a more natural and fluid communication. Number two, language is not only verbal. In English culture, increase the possibilities of more practical and effective communication. Each culture has particularities in this sense, and they are very useful when spoke language is imitated. Number three, understanding cultural fit is key to learn English. Understanding the cultural makes it easier to adapt in an English-speaking environment. Number four, cultural competence is available and a marketable skill. Understanding the preferences and internal protocols of Americans favors professional development and personal cultural competence. English is present in the present is practically all contexts from academic to entertainment. For all of the above, it is important to understand the impact that the culture behind this language has. English in the media, the press. For 400 years, English has been the predominant language of the world's press, while in other language press production is local according to the language of each region. English language newspapers and publications have a special status throughout the world. Some of the oldest and most important newspapers in the world are the Weekly News, the London Gazette, the Boston Newsletter, the Tatler, the Spectre, the Times, the Observer, the New York Tribune, and others. In general, the most international press and academic publication, English is the predominant language as an effective vehicle for the dissemination of information.
Good evening, teacher. I'm Carolina Bravo, and now I'm going to talk about the English in the media about the radio. The first topic is historical first. And we have to know that English has a central role in radio broadcasting since its beginning in 1906 when Reginald Friesen transmitted the first language broadcast. The first commercial radio station about KDKA began in the USA about in 1920s with over 500 licensed stations by 1922 and about 5,000 by 1995. English language spread it's a globally in 1920s to countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and India. Today, we have to know that English remains dominant with 15,045 4,500 stations in the USA and made for 24 hours English radio stations in countries like China and Japan. And about the English in media, about television, the first information that I am going to tell you about the relevance in the USA, then the global influence and the language learning benefits, and the last one is the education impact. First, we have to know that television has a significant role in the global spread of English. In the USA, with an estimated 332 million TVs, nearly all content is English. Even in the countries where English is not the primary language, producers often choose English to reach a wider audience. As since an Indian Bollywood, which produce 1,000 English language films annually, about the TV shows, and movies. Not only entertain but also transmit culture, customs, and habits from their countries of origin. They reflect the cultural context of the production, making them influential tools for language learning. And about the research shows that watching English language TV is highly effective for improving listening and speaking skills. A study found that 80% of non-native English speakers report improved grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation, while 91% learn commonly used expressions and contractions through the TV programs. And about the highlights in TV, it's dual roles as both cultural bridge and a powerful tool education. Thank you. And about the last point about film industry, the first were hindered the growth of the European film industry, leading to Hollywood rise as the global center of the cinema in 1950. This era saw the emergence of feature films, star systems, and major studios, with the advent of sound in the late of 1920s. English became the dominant language in movies. By 1933, the majority of the films and talent were centered on the English language productions, with 1940% of the directors and most studios making movies in English. Although film industry in other countries have grown, Hollywood, that remember that was the first industry, was continued to dominate with English language blockbusters like Star Wars, Titanic, and The Lord of the Rings. In 2002, over 800 of all theatrical releases were English. American films not only entertain but also serve as the soft power tool, spreading American values, costumes, and the English language globally. This underscores Hollywood's lasting influence of both global cinema and cultural dissemination. And this is all about the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, I am Daisy Kando. I am going to talk about the popular music. I have some key points about the popular music. The number one is origin of the recording industry. The recording industry began in the late 19th century with the invention of the phonograph, the first device to record and reproduce sounds, and advanced with technologies such as gramophone records and magnetic tapes in the United States. The other key point is development of formats and companies. Columbia Records, founded in 1898, is the oldest active record company. In 1948, it launched the long playing record, revolutionizing music distribution. Dominance of English language. English has been the dominant language since the beginning of the industry, consolidating in the 20th century with artists from the United States and the United Kingdom. And the other key point is impact of English popular music. Since the 1960s, pop music and mass concerts have popularized English among young people. Most global hits have been in this language. And the other key point is global recognition of the United Kingdom in pop music. The United Kingdom led pop music for 3 decades, according to producer Nick Reynolds, establishing itself as a global reference in this genre. Roots of modern popular music. Popular music before the 20th century was influenced by European theatres and operas, which helped develop song in English. And finally, the key point is youth cultures and globalization of English. Popular music has been key to spreading English among young people, consolidating it as the predominant language in global music. And finally, in conclusion, popular music not only transformed the recording industry, but established English as the primary language in global music, reinforcing its cultural and linguistic influence. Thank you.
Within evolution on English literature, we have the origin and first influence, conversions to Christianity, the use of Latin as literary language is creating the period of King Alfred. In the Middle Age, the influence of Latin and Anglo-Norman writings arrived, emerged of a flexible and subtle language. The key figures are Geoffrey Chaucer and William Shakespeare. In the Renaissance, the renewed interest in classic learning and classical ballads influenced all the arts, including English literature. In the 18th and 19th centuries, in the August period, Romanticism has less specific but idealized influence from antiquity. For the 20th century, modernism and avant-garde inspiration from European movements, influencing critical theories such as structuralism and deconstructivism. Jacques Derrida in the European connection, it has an influence on each stage of English literary development. As can be seen within the evolution, we have important years for the development of the periods of English literature. In modern English literature, it had an impact on modern society where it reflects society. helping to understand the world. In the emotional connection and contemporary themes, it connects the reader with the author's psyche. It addresses modern problems such as human conflicts. For the promotion of the English language and cultural English literature spreads the English language and culture globally, and the educational role of textbook it is used in language institutes and universities around the world, transmitting the culture and ideas of the English speaking world to the new generations.